Welcome to Mr. Wizard's Workshop, episode 31. So this week's focus is productivity principle number 5. Last week's episode, I discussed the fourth of a group of core principles for personal productivity. These core principles are the mindsets, beliefs, paradigms, patterns, mental models, which can be the foundation to build all of your specific productivity techniques, systems, and practices on. So last week's principle number 4 was habit is destiny. And as a reminder, here's a quote that I think kind of pulls that thought together. We first make our habits, and then our habits make us. John Dryden, famous poet. I'll post the link to last week's episode in the description of this week's episode in case you missed it. So the principle we're going to focus on for this week is internal chaos creates external chaos. So if you have chaos on the inside, you're going to make your life chaotic. And chaos on the outside can trigger even more inner chaos. Butterfly effect describes a phenomena in chaos theory whereby a minor change in circumstances in the real world can cause a large change in outcome. I think the classic example is the flapping of a butterfly's wings in Brazil causing a tornado in Texas. So there's also an inner butterfly effect. So these inner chaos butterflies can distract us and rob us of our productivity. Chaos gets started in your mind, body, and emotions with very small triggers. So a single thought can spin up a whole chaotic story storm in your mind. For example, dog, I'm meeting. So this is a single, fairly innocuous thought butterfly, but then my memory isn't good as it used to be. Is this senior dementia starting? What if I have early stage Alzheimer's? Oh, let me go Google it. Oh, geez, stage 2 is forgetfulness. And look, stage 3 is mild cognitive impairment. I've been a little bit off at work this week. Oh, man, what's going to happen if I'm not able to work anymore? Who's going to take care of my family? We'll end up living under a bridge in a cardboard box and eating canned cat food with a rusty spoon. And of course, your emotions and your physical body join the parade. So in this, admittedly, slightly overwrought example, one thought has turned into an elaborate shit show. So what to do, how to make use of this principle? Well, first be aware that it does happen and that most of us are not as consistently together as we would like to think. Also be aware that some people are actually addicted to this inner chaos. They're addicted to the struggle and they feel at home in it. Many people grew up in physical and emotional chaos, so they think that this is just the way things are supposed to be. Do you have any friends or family members that every time you talk to them and ask them how things are going, the answer is some variation of, oh man, things are just crazy. My world is spinning, it's out of control, blah, blah, blah. They are probably addicted to their butterflies. They're addicted to their struggle and they can't get out of it. What else to do? Well, start noticing your inner butterflies. Pay attention to the trigger thoughts or emotions and catch yourself. In effect, become more mindful. For example, okay, wait a minute. I was going to focus on this one thing and now I'm spinning up and getting excited and getting distracted. So the sooner you can catch yourself before you get totally spun up, the easier it is. So this is an opportunity, a moment where you can wake up. Several other episodes I've talked about, the monkey mind, the Buddhist concept of being aware of the fact and noticing that your mind's not always completely under your control. And often your thoughts are spinning around and hopping from one branch to the next. So this is another way to come at that thought is become more mindful. Quick recap on principle number 5. This is a quote that I had last week also from the Tao. Remember last week's was habit is destiny, but I thought the quote applied well here also. Watch your thoughts. They become your words. What's your words? They become your actions. What's your actions? They become your habits. What's your habits? They become your character. And what's your character becomes your destiny. The key thought there is watch and watching. Another way to think about this is as within, so without. So the outside world is a reflection of our inner world and what we feel, think, and believe, have a tendency to manifest in our lives. Internal chaos creates external chaos. So the action item for this week is think about, identify, and write down, one of your chaos butterflies in each of 3 categories, the mental, emotional, and physical. So for example, in mental, What is one of your trigger thoughts, something that you've noticed before that triggers a whole bunch of other thoughts? For example, what if I make a fool of myself during this presentation? So when I first started doing this workshop and other video recordings, that was a trigger thought that could kind of spin me off or at least distract from my efficiency. But, once I become aware of it and homed in on a little bit, thought about it, okay, what's the worst could happen, blah, blah. It's not something that triggers me much anymore. The second category would be emotional. So what is one of your trigger emotions? One that sets off a whole, excuse me, a whole storm of emotions. So the example I'm using here, annoyance when someone isn't immediately giving me what I want. I'm actually using that from observing my mother-in-law who lived with us for 20 plus years, who definitely, I'd say, lived in the struggle. And I've observed, I can't even tell you how many phone calls she was on where she was trying to get something accomplished with insurance or a doctor's appointment or something related to her, usually her health. She would go from, reasonably pleasant to screaming at someone over the phone in like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And it was almost inevitable. That's something that triggered her almost every single time. When something was going on, especially on the phone, where things weren't going exactly the way she wanted, then it would just trigger that series of emotions all the way up to rage. The last category, physical. So think about, maybe identify what is one of your triggers in physical reality, something that takes you out of flow and gets you busy going off and compulsively doing other things. And I just picked an example of, and this may or may not be something that triggers you, but I just want to lay some examples out. You get an email sound alert, you've got mail, or whatever your particular email system does. That's not one for me because I turn off the mail alert so it doesn't even distract me. Brief announcement, as usual, found this video useful. Hit the like and subscribe, always good. If you know someone who'd enjoy or benefit from the video, please send them the link. And as always, if you have any questions about the session, post them. I always respond to posts. In the description of this week's recording, I'll post a link to last week's episode. I'll also post a link to a podcast recording of Eben Pagan from 2014 discussing the inner butterfly effect. So I got this concept from him from his VC class, but when I was doing a little bit more research, I found this good. It's about a 10-minute podcast way back where he's talking about the inner butterfly effect. So I have a question for you to ponder. Are you an entrepreneur who's highly motivated to improve your productivity, but you still struggle with procrastination, regularly find yourself neglecting your highest priority tasks? If so, then schedule a free 30-minute quick start to time blocking working session with me. So I'm a master of time blocking, and I can help you master it also. I have a very limited number of time blocks available in my calendar, so grab a slot while you can. And I'll put the scheduling link for that in the description of this week's video. Morris, Happy New Year. Yay, Happy New Year. And from Gina, remember, I've been talking about the inner butterfly effect. Trying to remember when I heard it before related to business. All right, so stop share. Make sure everybody's enabled.
Can you hear me?
I can. Happy
Yay.
New Year. All right. Hey, Morris.
Hi, Morris.
Hey, Stephen. Hi, Gina. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. I hope you all had a great night last night. I was just home, but it was great for me.
Yep. No, we enjoyed it. Didn't do anything. I had a bottle of champagne in the fridge, but I didn't even pop the cork. So,
Well, I couldn't imagine a better message for January 1st of the new year than what I heard today, Stephen. That was definitely. So I learned a new word, story storm. Perfect. Just perfect. I don't know if you came up with it, heard it somewhere, but it's absolutely perfect. It's something that happens to me regularly. So the story storm, now I have a word for it. And the other thing is how you highlight just observing the triggers, being mindful of the triggers. So many times I try to fix everything, right? Like I want to fix it on the spot, but it doesn't always work. And talking about the story storm, all it takes is observing the trigger, being mindful of the trigger. And, that's all I need to do for my New Year's resolution. I love it. So this was great.
Very good. So, Gina, have you experienced that story storm or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, as you were talking, I was about the classes that I've been taking.
Yeah.
I've been taking a number of different classes for different things, but we talked about this in a class called Mind Over Matter that's specifically for people either living with cancer or surviving cancer.
Right.
And we discussed a number of techniques in order to stop you thinking the absolute worst. And in our case, the absolute worst is, death, figurement, or something, right?
Right.
So you go, you get a scan, right? And then they tell you the scan is going to come, within a couple of hours, and a couple of hours pass and it doesn't come. And now you're saying, oh, it must be awful. The radiologist is watching it. I have a relapse. I'm going to be debilitated and I'm going to die. And what is my family going to do? And how much money? And all of this, right? And, we have a number of things that we do in order to interrupt that, like stop and say, wait a minute.
Right.
Is it true?
Right.
And it's not really true. The radiologist is probably busy. It's not because of anything.
Right.
And I have a bunch of little cards that I can use. It was just a really nice program. And it's really nice to see how all of these various programs for different types of issues connect with business. Because I remember learning the butterfly effect, in college, right? But then, Evan brings it into the business realm, and, I take all of this wisdom and apply it to our business. The other thing I wanted to say was I've always been interested in mindfulness, and I've been kind of doing it just because I like doing it.
Uh-huh.
But you just made the connection for me as to why I need to do businesswoman. It's because I need to calm my inner mind so that my outer self is acting productively.
Right.
And I never made that connection. I always connect my inner mind, but I never made the connection to behaving productively. So I really appreciate it. I'm glad that I came on today.
Very good. I'm starting to notice as I'm going through even these first 5 principles, a lot of them lead to,
Yeah, the monkey mind is also used in writing productivity as
Right.
well.
Yep.
I forget who the famous writer was talking about the monkey mind. You have to tame the monkey mind in order to move forward with your writing. And the way that you do it is just 10 o'clock, I'm going to be writing. I'm going to write for 30 minutes. And if you get that into that habit, then you tame your monkey mind.
back to time blocking, right? So,
Yeah.
all right. So anything else on this particular subject? Any other thoughts or observations?
I will not feel like